Hello, peeps. Y'all, I am wearing the shirt that I designed for the Dandelion Ministry. On the back, it has, you are not a weed, you are a seed, be set free. So just like we blow the dandelion and we set it free, you are what God says you are, and you are going to go. God made the wind. God will take you where you need to go. So there's a lot of stress and anxiety that we all struggle and suffer with because of the unknown, because there's such a root of fear within that, not knowing, am I doing the right thing? Why does my life look like this? I don't even know. I'm praying and seeking God, but I don't necessarily hear so vividly as maybe I feel like other people do. Am I doing the right thing? It's, if you yoke up with God, you're going with God. If you seed doesn't worry and think about where it's going to land and if it's going to root in correctly, seed doesn't, it is just flying, right? That's what we want to do. We don't want to live in fear. We want to be flying. Okay, so it's like sweet light, which is nice, but I've got these weird shadows. So sorry about the shadows. So it's crazy how much, let's see, will that help? There, that'll help. So God gave me the name Dandelion Ministry. And then it's taken me a while to figure out, but I prayed and immediately God gave me Romans 8:2, which is because through Christ Jesus, the law of the Spirit who gives life has set you free from the law of sin and death. What does that mean? What does that mean? The law of sin and death. Sin and the sin of the world is what tells us the lies of that we're not good enough, that we're not doing it right, that we're gonna mess up, that we don't deserve it. All these lies that root in because of the world have to be fought against. Why God says read my word every day is because of the renewing of your mind is necessary every day, because you are inundated culturally. You know, the stat for how much advertisements and garbage that you take in with your eyes, which are your eyes are the window into your soul, right? And so you can really look at people's eyes and see a lot and know a lot, and that it's a gate and we have to guard it. And so as you get deeper trying to follow God, your spirit the Holy Spirit will convict you sometimes, like things that you've done that you feel like have been fine in your life. As God takes you in a new season, takes you deeper, you might find the Spirit saying, you can't watch that. That's not okay. You have to guard the gates. You can't just let everything in. You can't just watch whatever you want, because it will get in your mind. Have you ever watched a movie and then you just cannot get it out of your mind, like some terrible scene or some just awful thing or weird thing or dirty thing or whatever, it's stuck in your mind on replay, right? And then, it's hard to abide in God if that's the kind of stuff you're thinking about. So the more you want to be set free, the more God will lead you to be hungry for the word and to soak up those scriptures that really renew your soul and your mind. So what I wanted to say is that is our verse for the Dandelion Ministries. This is the shirt. I designed this shirt, and if we got the bee because the purpose of the dandelion is very potent to keep bees alive, which pollinate so much of the food that keeps people alive and healthy and sustenance. And so the dandelion is beautiful and has a beautiful purpose, but the world will call it a weed, right? So we're talking about your identity. We're trying to set ourselves free from the idea that we're not good enough, the idea that we're doing it wrong, the idea that we need to do it like everybody else. You just need to walk with God. I need to walk with God, and we need to care about what God thinks and where God is leading us, and reject the fear of man. So basically, I've struggled with deep anxiety and all kinds of things I've gone through that really root down to the fear of man, caring way too much about what people think, because that's what the message is that the world and life taught me, was that's what life was about, is behave, be good, don't rock the boat, don't bother people, just basically a lot of messages that are not, you can live that way, but that's just another way to be governed by fear. Like, it's just, there's so many different ways that fear can seek into our roots and then, affect our bloom or lack of. And so you have to water our roots, which is roots in, and have the foundation and the roots of Christ, so that we are rock solid, like Peter the rock. So, the 10 Commandments are kind of like a rock of, like, when the world gets weird and it gets crazy and everybody's doing these things, let me check, when we're children, when we're younger, like, let me check, is that like what I should be doing, with those pretty broad ones, like, is this loving? It might be cool, it's definitely cool, but is it loving? No, it's not loving. It's cool to be sort of mean, right, in a lot of ways. So anyway, this verse just fits so great to, and what is it that we all really want? We want to be free of mental illness. We want to be free of confusion, free of fear, free of anger, free of bitterness, so things will seep in. So maybe you've followed God your whole life, but you sort of haven't been renewing your mind. You haven't been seeking God. You love God, but you've just been kind of caught up. You got swept into life, living life. You're running here and there, doing all the things, and then it gets exhausting and you run on empty and you aren't getting renewed, and the bitterness seeps in from life, right? And so we want to be free of all the things like fear and anger and bitterness. And so forgiveness is a huge part of that, which is a whole thing. But I wanted to read, so I'm reading from the New International Version, the Radiant Virtues. So I've got some crafting and some random acts of kindness that I'll be doing, like different things on the channel. And so if you are one of my crafty peeps, this has where we can color and do all kinds of fun stuff. So what else does the Bible say about how to keep our minds from anxiety, from depression, from all the things that really just bring us down and make life really hard? So it says in Romans 8:5, those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires, but those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. So the mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. Life and peace. That is what we all want, life and peace. How do I have peace in this world and in this place? And that living in the Spirit. So we all, including me, get swept up into just the grind, having to work like dogs and still not having money to give your kids what you want, and just like thoughts will seep in there and start festering, and they'll just like get gross in our roots, and slugs will come in and start growing on our roots, and then it will affect that we're not able to bloom. We feel stunted, we feel stuck, we feel bitter. The taste of that kind of, if your roots of the plant aren't healthy, then the taste of the plant is affected. So God has called us to be the salt and the light, and how can we keep being that in this world that just tears you down, and just reading the Bible. If you are just in a dark place and you just randomly see this video, because promise you, nobody's watching my videos yet. So if you're seeing this, this is a sign that God is sending you a lifeline to get in his word. If you seek, you shall find. God says, if you seek me, you shall find. And what will happen is the renewing of your mind will take place over time because of the Spirit, and the word is alive. So you will pray, and then God will send you answers. And being able to hear from God, or being able to know that you're in the will, or that you're abiding with him, is the only thing that will truly bring life and peace, that on what the Spirit desires. And so it's not something you can do without God. And I think the main thing that the world will do to you is separate you from God. Nothing can separate you from God, but it can feel like you're separated from God. Okay, right? We don't want to live by our feelings, because our feelings are all over the place, and I might not feel God, but the truth of the word is God is with me, even though I might not feel it. And being able to stay connected is a huge part of keeping the mind healthy. So if you are just feeling bitter, overwhelmed, miserable, depressed, anxious, all these negative things, get in the word, build that relationship with Jesus. Make it a 5-minute habit in your day. Like, seriously, 5 minutes. Don't, if you're some kind of person that can do immediately the 15-minute thing, that is great, do it. But if you're gonna like quit because it's too hard, just 5 minutes. Get an app. If you're an app person, there's so many different ways. There's Bible, or you just get a Bible. Like, this Bible has devotionals in it that you can do for the entire year. I mean, there are so many devotionals and stuff. But just get in the word, basically, will be the beginning of a beautiful thing of renewing your mind. So we're basically right here, right now, we're talking about identity, and that the world will tell you what you should think about yourself, and it's mostly negative, and most of us get sucked in. And especially if you're chosen by God, a lot of times you might be the black sheep. You might have experienced a lot of bullying, a lot of rejection, a lot of terrible, hard things that you have come through that have refined you. The fire of the furnace of life has refined you, and you are like a fine silver that God has made ready for your purpose. And the world says the dandelion is a weed, and the world says you're not good enough, but it's not true, because your identity, if it comes from Christ, you can be set free, that you are more than a conqueror, that you are the head and not the tail, that God has a purpose for you, and he knows how many hairs are on your head. If the God of the universe even knows my name and anything I'm doing, it is just mind blowing, right? So God loves you, which is something that people hear and say, but I feel like you really can't believe those things unless you are in the word. Like, it's the only way. So like, as a counselor, I've got lots of mental health, excellent information and science and all kinds of good tools, which I believe God sent into the world to help people, because I have helped people with those tools. But I feel like for me, as the counselor, doing and knowing all these things and still struggling on a deeper level is because God was bringing me back to him. I was trying to do it in my power, my striving, my effort, because I was raised on a farm and I was taught you work hard and you do it and it'll work out, right? And so the bitter root of the thoughts that can seep in for me is, how come I did everything I was supposed to do while other people made bad choices around me, and stuff's working out for them and it's not working out for me? I don't understand. And it's because God brought me back to him so that he could set me free and give me peace and joy. And that is what I am called to spread on this channel. And but your mind, your eyes are gates. Your mouth is powerful, the words that you say. So you want to prophesy life into your life. That a lot of us were raised like, there's just the world and generations of teaching of saying things, like, especially, like, think about when it comes to poverty and the way that people think about money. There's books about you know, the way that people have not been dealing with poverty for generations, they speak about money differently. The way that you talk is really important too. And so watching what you say, becoming aware of what you say, and then being aware that you just lied to yourself, and then replacing it with the truth. Okay, so I am aware I just called myself a piece of garbage because I messed up again. I have ADHD. I did something wrong. I forgot my meeting again. The world says I am trash, I am dumb, I am this and that, and you become aware of it and you say, you know what, no, God says I'm more than a conqueror. God made me this way for a purpose, and maybe I'm not in the right environment that is good for the kind of flower I am. So if I'm a dandelion, luckily we are tough and we can grow in a lot of places, but that doesn't mean that the dandelion wouldn't do better with the right amount of sun, the right amount of nutrients in the soil, and the right amount of water. And so a lot of things, if you're in a dark place, watching, becoming aware, number one, of what you're saying to yourself, how mean you are to yourself. If you are being mean to yourself, God made you, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and God doesn't make junk, and he does not appreciate you tearing down his creation. You are a beautiful creation, and so you don't want to be tearing yourself down. There's plenty of other people to do that for you. You don't need to do it yourself. So if you become aware that you're lying to yourself, saying things like, I never do anything right. Okay, so that's a counseling nugget. Never and anything are almost always not true, right? There's hardly anything we always do. And so catching your nevers, your always, and catching the lies, and then replacing it with the truth. Okay, I am not a piece of trash. I am time blind, and it is hard for me to be on time. That's the truth. So you don't need to lie and say like you're perfect and, you know, that kind of junk. You just become aware, and then and it takes time, and you get in the word to get the words. Surround yourself with other people who believe so that you can borrow their faith. You know, get around really, if you know some great people who are just really full of faith, hang out with them on purpose. Watch what you say, watch what you put into your gates, watch what kind of content are you taking in, and how is it affecting you. So many things I could say, but I feel like if you set your mind on what is good and holy, right? I can find that verse, but if you set your mind on God, so instead of waking up and scrolling, you wake up and you thank God, and you get with God, and you even just say good morning to God. There was a pastor who said that, and I heard him one time that, you know, you wake up and, you know, you make a habit out of living differently. It's hard because most people do wake up and scroll, or wake up and, you know, you have to be intentional about seeking God if you really want the peace and the joy and the freedom, right? We want to fly. We want to be free. We want to actually be who God made us to be, and we want what God has for us. We want the life that God promised us. We don't want to just live with no rudder, right? So we're in the wind. So that might sound like you're like just going with the wind, but really God is the wind, that God creates the wind, and God is carrying you where you need to go. And with that means you can be free, and you can be free of fear and anxiety, and you can just enjoy the ride. Of course, it's not going to all be easy. God never said it. The world isn't that it's full of troubles and it's going to be hard. But if God is with you, then the fear that is really debilitating, that peace and joy can overtake you. So let me know if you want to hear more about any of that. But if you want to buy a t-shirt, I'll link my website below. And if you want to sow into this ministry that God has called me, it is going to be quite the adventure. Just like I'm saying on the wind, who knows where God will take me. And so thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming to my channel. And I hope and pray that you will be set free through Jesus.